This is Tim.
And Brandon.
This is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics, sponsored by ComicsNow.com. First of all, I want to remind everybody, if you're working on a comic, you're a writer, an artist, you want some feedback, you can send us your comic and we'll review it on the show. Gives us something to talk about, and you can get some feedback from people who know something about comics and have we've done some of our own, particularly Mulele, of course. Last time, I'm not sure if either Brandon or Mulele realized this, but I had both of you guys look at that one that we got before, and I just pieced them together on the show. But
Oh, really?
yeah, so I got one of you, and then I can't remember which one I put in first. I think I'm Mulele first, and then Brandon, because I talked to Mulele first that time. But anyway, we got a couple books to talk about, and I overslept, so we don't have that much time to do it. But first book is called Spiral Bound by Aaron Renier. This is a top shelf book. Actually, they're both top shelf. We just keep reading top shelf books.
It used to be all Dark Horse. Now it's all top shelf.
This is it's basically kind of a cartoony, funny animal type book, although I think it's more sophisticated than it looks. It would work as a kid's book. There's no profanity in it or adult situations or anything, but it's sort of maybe demanding of a child reader to understand what an underground newspaper is, and I don't know, just kind of some of the interactions between the characters are a little sophisticated.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to say I really like the design of this book. It's called Spiral Bound, and they've done just about everything they could do to make it look like a spiral bound notebook, other than spiral binding it.
I liked on the sides of the pages how you had the little lines, so it really looked like if you were to open it up, it was like a wide ruled spiral bound notebook.
Yeah, if you close the book and look along the edges of the pages, you see the lines just like it was a notebook, and they've got lines about 2/3 of a centimeter in from the edge of the page all throughout the book. And the front of the book, it looks in places like the color has come off or been erased off or something, and a couple of price tags on it, and the 3 holes in it, and a picture of spiral binding along the edge with a pencil stuck through it. And just it has a kind of a nice matte finish to it, and it just feels really nice to hold, I think. Oh my goodness.
The only thing that... Oh, go ahead.
I just got an email from Paige Braddock. She's a artist in San Francisco. I interviewed a friend of hers before, and I asked her to be on the show. Looks like she's going to be on. So future episode we'll have Paige Braddock on. But, okay, so...
Is that related to Spiral Bound?
Not really, no. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to mention on the cover, the only thing that kept getting me about the cover is that for some reason, when I would just glance at the book, I kept seeing a sumo wrestler with his arms kind of flailing backwards, and it was the elephant's head. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't quite see that, but
it's like that old lady, young lady thing. I don't know. My mind was playing tricks on me. But anyways, yeah, it's a very nice, nicely bound book. The texture of all the artwork is really kind of cool. And really, it's a mystery book, right?
Right. Yeah, these kids, they're animals, of course. They discover that there's some secret that the older people in the town are keeping something that happened in the past, and they uncover what happened. Um, in terms of I guess it would be a storytelling issue in this book. I felt like sometimes the transitions between scenes were really abrupt. Did you notice that? Would you be like, here's the end of the scene just sort of ended and not on really kind of a final note, and then you were just suddenly in a different scene, and it might be
Yeah,
like the last panel on the page, you were suddenly in a different scene.
it was kind of choppy in some places, especially when you would expect, okay, well, maybe I would have made the page turn here instead of continuing on and then turning the page.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at an electronic copy. So, like, between page 30 and 31, I probably would have put that last panel of page 30 onto page 31.
Yeah, because it almost feels like it's part of the same scene, and then you notice it's a different character or a different room.
Yeah, so the logic behind the transitions that they're using, I think this transition in particular could work, but its placement on the page is a kind of a poor choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the few complaints I really had about the book. I mean, the story was very interesting, and in terms of the layout of each panel, I didn't really have a complaint, although some of them were a little unusual. And this is not
And the
not
artwork is really nice.
yes, it is. Um, this is not necessarily a complaint, but the pacing was sort of interesting. I mean, it would there were places where it would just sort of zoom in on one character for the character to say two words or something. It it was a little bit. It was very fast paced, I guess you could say.
It was, yeah. I thought you would appreciate the word puns that the editor was throwing around. The turtle,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the kids didn't get the jokes, but
right up your line, your
yes,
alley.
uh-huh. Well, in like underground newspaper, I think, yeah, of course, kids only think in the literal sense of
Right.
underground, and it is their offices are underground, but they're also sort of an underground newspaper in the figurative sense.
Wow, I'm looking at a copy of it. I don't know what it's under Google Books,
Oh wow,
and it's got most of the pages digitized on it.
huh?
It cuts off at page 172,
They haven't finished scanning it yet.
which is real close to the end, though.
Right? Yeah. The last page of the story is 178.
And speaking of the last page, I was a little disappointed with the ending.
How so?
It just, I understand the mystery and the reveal and everything, so they went up to the climax, but when they're supposed to return us back to the normal world, I just thought it was kind of weird that they just started dancing and then forgot about everything in the world, you know?
Hmm.
It just seemed a weird, kind of abrupt way to end the story.
Hmm. Yeah. Maybe he. I think this might be his first book. So he may need a little work on that aspect of the storytelling. Uh, but but the story itself, I enjoyed. I didn't find any holes in it.
Yeah, I
It's
thought
an
it was a good
interesting
story.
story. Uh huh.
It
So
wasn't, it wasn't like mind-boggling how original it was, but
uh huh.
not like Tricked or what's the other one that Robinson did?
Box office poison.
Box Office Poison. Those had plot twists in it that kept you guessing. This had its fair share of twists, but it wasn't anything that was like you're sitting there going, "How in the world did this all come together?"
Hmm.
It's a good story though.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I picked this out mainly because it was from Top Shelf, so I thought, okay, well, it's probably going to be pretty good. And the art is there. I mean, he's obviously done a lot of practice on the artwork before this book. He's not just getting started. So,
Yeah,
but I mean, his art may be ahead of his. I don't know.
Storytelling.
Storytelling. Yeah, not the writing. The writing's okay. It's more just the interaction of the writing and the art. The storytelling might need a little work, but okay.
But a pretty good book.
Yes, yes. I guess I'd give it maybe a 8 or 9.
Really?
Yeah.
I would maybe give it an 8.
Okay.
But the next one, I would give much higher marks.
Okay, this is another top shelf book, Creature Tech by Doug TenNapel, TenNapel, and the second N is capitalized. Yeah, this book reminded me of Maxwell Strangewell, except it was better.
Yeah, like a million times better.
It's sort of the same territory with aliens and science fiction and that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought the attempts at humor were much funnier, and the story held together better.
And it was more original. I don't know, in every single sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the better sci-fi books that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does have a lot of humor in it,
Mm-hmm.
which keeps it light.
Mm-hmm.
But I was surprised at how deep some of the writing, some of the dialogue got into like scientific theory and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And into spiritual area.
Oh yeah,
and it has kind of a Christian message without coming across as being a quote unquote Christian book.
more of like a spiritual message than
Mm-hmm.
like really saying you have to be a Christian per se, right?
Yeah, I mean it's not something you'd necessarily find at Zondervan bookstore. And I think there's some profanity in it here and there, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it has kind of a spiritual message and deals with the interaction between religion and science. The main character, what was his name? Dr. Ong, Michael. Yeah, his father was a scientist and then became a minister because he said that scientific theory required more faith than
More
religion
faith.
does.
What was the term that he was using? Not organized, but the creation occurred with intelligent design. Is that what the term they use?
Intelligent design. Yeah, he believes in an
Saying that somebody
intelligent
was
designer.
in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody was in charge of evolution and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, just kind of give a summary of the story. It starts out with this kind of mad scientist guy in the mid-19th century who calls a space eel out of space. This giant space eel, and it falls out of the sky and crushes the guy's house and kills him. But then in the present day, Dr. Ong's project to go through all these sort of paranormal phenomena crates uncovers the ghost of this guy comes in and tries to recover his stuff and manages to come back to life. And yeah, it's really interesting. And
Well, it's like 3 different plot lines, I think, because that first part with the mad scientist it's almost straight out of like the black and white Frankenstein movie,
mm-hmm.
where we have Dr. Frankenstein, and his little lackey Igor.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it's a demon instead of a deformed human being.
Mm-hmm.
And then the I don't want to say what the artifact is, but it's a religious artifact.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually his. He just discovers it while he's wandering around the halls of this as a ghost.
Yeah, they happen to have it there.
Of Creature Tech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Creature
And
Tech
then
is
there's
their project. Mm-hmm.
The whole kind of love story thing.
Right, yeah, the
I
love
guess
story.
that's a separate one.
Mm-hmm.
The other plot line is why they had to open up that one crate that had the religious artifact in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then there's also the thing about Dr. Ong and the parasite. That's
Yeah.
kind of a separate issue also.
Mm-hmm.
Although it plays into the storyline with the other aspects, and it all works together really well. I didn't feel like any part of it got shortchanged or was focused on too much. It all kind of balances out, and fairly satisfying ending.
I thought the overall story and the ending was really, really good.
Mm-hmm. The art too kind of reminds me of Maxwell Strangewell, but
Done
but
better.
better. Yeah, a little more kind of flow to it. It feels a little more. I'm not sure what the word is, but
There's a lot more character to his lines.
mm-hmm.
It looks like he uses a lot of dry brush.
Yeah, I think he must. Mm-hmm.
The artwork is awesome. I mean, the black and white, the contrast between the two and the balance is really good. And his characterization of the way that he draws the characters themselves, consistent all the way through, interesting, lots of life to his characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everything is framed well. Nice, close-ups and different angles, and he uses silhouettes a fair amount, and he uses them very effectively in fight scenes or other thing, or like if something very violent happens, he might just show it as a silhouette, which is a fairly common technique, but he makes good use of it.
I think it's more common in film, isn't it?
Perhaps. I think I have seen it in comics before, but
Okay.
okay. Anything else?
I was going to say something else. I don't remember now.
Yeah, the science and religion things really work off each other in interesting ways. We've got this one character, Blue, who's this giant insect, like a mantis or something, and at one point he has a near-death experience, and we see the bug afterlife, which was very interesting. But yeah, then I guess that sequence is silent, but apparently he's like at the afterlife feast, and he's needed back on Earth, and he's called back.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, what I was going to say was you had mentioned the silhouettes. I was going to say he does a whole lot with lighting effects to make things seem scarier, or he does a lot of mood lighting.
Yeah.
Which is his inking. That's what I was going to mention. Which is really, really effective, once again.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, I read this, and I'm tempted to try to get him on the show too.
He's fairly famous, from what I understand, right?
I don't know. I don't recall seeing any of his other work. I'm not sure if he's done any other work.
He has. I can't remember what it is. Eisner Award winner Doug TenNapel grew up in the town of Denair, an outskirt of Turlock.
Which is where the story takes place.
Creator of Earthworm Jim, The Neverhood, and Gear, he writes, paints, and develops TV shows for fun and profit. And Earthworm Jim being a really famous cartoon as well as video game, I think.
Okay. Doesn't ring a bell for me, but that doesn't mean anything.
Came out in the 90s, I think. And The Neverhood, I had heard of before as well. So it's not just like he's some B-grade television cartoon producer. He's done some pretty famous work, I think. The Neverhood is a 1996 PC CD-ROM claymation video game.
Oh, wow.
Created by Doug TenNapel, or TenNapel, however you say his name. Released by DreamWorks. It's an adventure game.
Cool.
Okay. So anyways, that would be cool if you could talk to him.
Yeah, well, since we now have kind of an in at Top Shelf, just get in touch with Chris Staros and see if he can hook me up.
Do we have a list of anything else that he's done?
As far as comics,
Yeah.
Well, I'm in front of my computer, of course, since we're on Skype. So
Graphic novels. Creature
there's
Tech. Gear.
TenNapel.com, his website works.
Tommysaurus Rex. First Boy Jacobus. Iron West. Black Cherry.
On his. Are you looking his site or where are you looking?
I was looking at the Forbidden Zone.
Okay.
Wikipedia.
On his site under comic books, he lists Flink, which I guess it's the newest one. Black Cherry, Gear, Iron West, Earthboy Jacobus, Tommysaurus Rex, Creature Tech, and Solomon Fix.
Because it was pretty obvious to me that this wasn't his first book. When I read through it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just put together a little too well. You know, this is no freshman attempt. It's not even a sophomore attempt, it doesn't seem like.
Mm-hmm. Although, what I was reading just now was in reverse chronological order, so it seems to be like all Solomon Fix is the only one that's before Creature Tech. And then I guess it says he also participated in Dark Horse's 9/11 graphic novel tribute. Apparently, that was his first comics work, and then Solomon Fix, and then this.
Well, Gear was printed in 1999 too. And 2002 was the printing of Creature Tech.
Okay, this shows that it's coming out from Image in 2007.
I'm gonna look at Amazon, see if we can.
Interesting. After Creature Tech, he switched to Image rather than Top Shelf.
Really?
Yeah, so everything
Big mistake.
Everything else has come from Image. So in that case, I don't know if Chris can hook me up or not, but maybe we can track him down.
In the back of the book, Creature Tech, it says the Neverhood Gear and Earthworm Jim are on the bio page. So I'd have to think. I don't know. I might be wrong. You can correct me.
Well,
Isn't that stuff usually before they publish this book?
I don't know. Well, we'll have to talk to him and find out.
There you go.
Get it straight from the horse's mouth.
I just pulled up one of the Amazon reviews of Gear,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the people who read it said, "I love Doug TenNapel. I think the guy is freaking brilliant. And although I've read various comics growing up, a lesser amount in the 80s and 90s, and a few more in the 21st century, this guy stands out." And I'd agree.
Yeah. We got to get some of his other work.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
What would you rate Creature Tech?
I think I go so far as to give it a 10.
I would also probably give it a 10.
Okay.
It's got a deep message. It's got awesome art. The storytelling is perfect, on the mark.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty close to being up there with Tricked or Box Office Poison.
Yeah.
Almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's not such a huge literary work, though. I mean,
Well, yeah.
it's not 600 pages like those other books are.
Yeah, well, I guess Alex Robinson's new one that's coming out later this year is not as long either.
Oh, really?
I found an interview with him on another site where he says it's only like 200 pages or something.
What's the name of his new book that's coming out?
Too Cool to Be Forgotten.
I see it. On Amazon, they have it for pre-order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's finished work on it. It's just they're getting ready to publish it.
Cool. So you're ordering that, probably?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Deconstructing Comics is sponsored by ComicsNow.com. Get up to 30% off everything in stock or join their subscription service and get 35% off with no minimum order. I have my comics delivered monthly, but you can choose to have them sent bi-weekly or weekly. For more information, contact them through the contact page at comicsnow.com. Many of the comics we review on this podcast are supplied by comicsnow.com, and they also provide Eric's newsletter, featured on our site, globalcomics.net. Our theme song is performed by Firewater. At Frapper.com, you can put a pin in our Frapper map. There's a link to it from the podcast page at globalcomics.net. And help us get noticed. Give us a review in iTunes, Podcast Alley, Podcast Pickle, or Podcast.com. If you'd like to send us a donation to help keep the show going, use the PayPal link on the podcast page at globalcomics.net. And once again, the email address to submit your comic or send us any comments is podcast@globalcomics.net. As I mentioned earlier, I've been in touch with Paige Braddock, creator of Jane's World, and she'll be on the podcast next week. She's also drawing Jason McNamara's story The Martian Confederacy, expected out later this year. Paige's day job is as interesting as her comics career, so don't miss next week's show. Till then, thanks for listening. This is Tim. See you next week on Deconstructing Comics.